Great. So, yeah, this is the last in the current series, actually. We've been having a series loosely based on the Wheel of Life, this extraordinary collection of images that sort of convey, communicate unenlightened consciousness. And yeah, this is just the last night. So, and actually, it's only loosely based. It's a rather tenuous connection with the material, but really, it's called a shared Dharma life. So it's looking at this aspect of the wheel where our experience is sort of divided down into kind of self and world or self and realm. There's the six realms. Wonderful week Dharma did actually describing the six realms. It's a series of concentric circles is the image. And these are the realms through which we pass, which can be taken literally or metaphorically. You can pass through all of the realms in one day. But just this idea that we sort of break our experience down into self and world, and we might think that the Dharma is something that we practice by ourselves. That's very much emphasized in Buddhism, isn't it? That it's an individual undertaking. But we can also think of it as a sort of realm, actually. We can think of it as a shared Dharma life. I don't think that's what I was thinking when I first came along to a Buddhist center. I don't know about you. And it raises the question, what I want to do to start with is throw out a question and see what you think about this area. And the question I've got for you is religion, are religions something that divide people or unify people? Yeah, so that's the question to sort of throw out to you. So if you just like to turn to your neighbors and neighbors in twos, threes, fours sort of thing, and just explore just for a few minutes to kind of get us started, and we'll see what you make of it. Yeah. Okay, so just come back into the big groups. All right. So it sounded like nobody fell out, so that's already a good sign, being at the Buddhist Center. So what came up? What did you decide?
We're done with a few more minutes.
Yeah. You decided that
people get literalistic about religion. That can lead to misunderstanding.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So people get literalistic, and that can lead to So religion can. Anything else come up? Oh, great.
Or an attitude of relating to the best, bring people together, regardless of religion.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Great. Welcome.
Sorry.
Don't worry. Anything else come up? Hi there, Mika.
One thought came to my mind that think that the religion can unify people within one religion.
Right, yeah.
Can divide people between the religion.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Depending on the religion, some religions may be more tolerant to different perspectives.
Yeah, very good. Yeah. Yes, it's interesting, isn't it? Sometimes division can be in the guise of unity. A particular community might look quite unified, but it's actually unified against another community. It's not really unity. It's just in the guise. It's actually division, kind of in the guise of unity. It's one way to unify people, isn't it? Have a common enemy. And it looks like unity, but actually it's not. It's not. It's division in disguise. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you also said some religions are actually more tolerant. Yeah, yeah. So it's not always the case. Yeah, great. Anything else? Anything else of significance? Hi, Ryan.
It's an interesting point came out that sort of culture and religion can really get intertwined, and
Oh,
then
yeah.
people could then sort of put a lot of value on the culture because now it sort of has this religious aspect. So the details of sort of how we do things in the culture take on this high value, and then you can get division just based off different cultural aspects, even if the
right.
religion is the same.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. So a bit like the culture becomes sacred, and we can't change that, and you must sort of comply. And yeah, yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, yeah. Great. So it's a bit of an area, isn't it? It's it's not a straightforward, immediately obvious answer. And it wasn't in the Buddha's time as well. I've been reading a book by Yuval Harari, Noah Harari, this book, A Short History of Humankind, and he's arguing that actually religion was a crucial step forward, actually, for us as a species. It's what singles us. What singles us out as a species is the fact that we've been able to function as communities, cooperate in a way that is not determined by genes. All other species, the only way that they cooperate is determined by genes, whereas we as a species are distinct in that we're able to live in communities that are, not merely sort of families, if you see what I mean. And he cites religion as a crucial sort of, it's a rather utilitarian way of talking about it, but as a sort of crucial bit of technology, if you see what I mean, that enabled us to do that, which is really fascinating. So it's very, very different from what I thought. When I came along to Buddhist Center, I was very fearful of organized religion. I didn't want to get involved in organized religion. There's been all sorts of things that have gone wrong and can go wrong in organized religion. Interesting, in the Buddha's time, there was a lot of variety of, there's a ferment really, and there's a particular sutta that tells of these wanderers from different sects who all kind of end up disputing in disputes. So here we go. I'll just read a little bit of it. There were a number of recluses and Brahmins, wanderers of various sects living around Savatthi, and they were of various views, of various beliefs, of various opinions. There were some recluses and Brahmins who asserted and held the view, the world is eternal. Only this is true. Any other view is false. There were some recluses and Brahmins who asserted the world is not eternal. Only this is true. Any other view is false, and so on through these different recluses. I won't recount all the views because they're sort of slightly odd to us in this day and age. But they lived quarrelsome, disputatious, and wrangling, rounding each other with verbal darts, saying, Dharma is like this, Dharma is not like that, Dharma is not like this, Dharma is like that. Yeah, so you get the picture. There was a lot of this in the Buddha's time. And some of the Buddha's followers coming across this, they go to the Buddha and they say, what do you make of this? All these people who are spiritual people, but actually they just end up falling out and wrangling. And so what he does is he gives them a sort of story, tells them a story, a parable, if you like, which is quite well known, which is the parable of the elephant and the blind man. So he says there's a king, and that king called together a number of blind men blind from birth, importantly blind from birth, and he introduces them to an elephant. So he brings them forward, brings one forward and allows him to touch the elephant. Of course, blind from birth, so never seen an elephant, touch the elephant. And he says, this is an elephant. What is an elephant like? And one touches the tusk and says, oh, well, an elephant is like a plowshare, or is it a plow pole? I can't remember all the detail. Anyway, another one, the leg of the elephant. Oh, an elephant is like a post. The other one, a head. Strangely, that's like a pot. It was like a pot in those days. I can't imagine quite how, but there we are. Another one, the ear, was a winnowing basket. So do you get the picture? There are all these people, and they're concluding that an elephant is like this, it's like that. And of course, what happens is they all fall out. They're all wrangling and disputatious. So that's what the Buddha said. That's what the Buddha said. So he's trying to articulate kind of how people fall out, and what the parable kind of shows us is that people sort of what we do is we identify with our limited experience, and then we say, do you remember in the sutta, this is the whole truth, anything else is false. That's what was happening. You sort of feeling the tusk and you identify with that experience, and then this is the whole truth. So there's this the basic point is the difference between a partial experience and the whole, seeing the whole thing. Yeah. So I don't know if you can relate to that, sort of taking your partial experience for the whole. I can, unfortunately. And why is it we do that? Well, I'm not going to go into that in the first half very much. I want to go into that in the second half. But it reminded me of a hustings that we did here. We invited all the candidates of the local, what's it called, election. We were through in the theatre. It was a brilliant evening. And I was really taken aback because we had the Conservative candidate and we had the Labour candidate, and they both talked about equality of opportunity. That was their main thing, if I remember right, equality of opportunity. And that really jumped out at me. I'm not massively clued up politically. I don't sort of keep up very well with politics. But that really jumped out at me. However, they didn't explain what they meant by that. They just sort of went on to talk from that. But you could glean that it was quite different. It was quite different. So for one, equality of opportunity was a quality of kind of social conditions, a baseline, basic level of social conditions for everybody. That's what they meant by equality of opportunity. And then for the other, what she talked about was her opportunity as an immigrant, well, actually her parents kind of coming into the country, and her ability to take entrepreneurial risks to progress herself economically. That's what she meant by equality of opportunity. And what was striking was you could see, oh yeah, I get that, actually. That's kind of really important opportunity, isn't it? But I can see that too. I can see, however, that's not the way they were presenting it. They weren't saying, oh, well, you know, there's this bigger vision and, you know, you need a bit of this and a bit of that, depending on people. They were saying, they may not have thought it, but certainly they were saying, this is the whole truth. This is what we need. They had hold of, you know, they're using the same word, equality of opportunity, but they had hold of the tusk or the tail of the elephant. So yeah, we don't need religious views, ideas to fall out. Actually, we're quite capable of doing it in secular society. But that jumped out at me. But that is what we do. That's what I see myself doing. I get hold of one part of experience, and I hold on to that tightly as though it is the truth. It is the whole of the experience. So the other thing that's in the analogy is that we don't actually arrive at the truth by adding together all the parts. It's not like you could get all the blind men to say, well, what's your bit like? Well, mine's a plowshare. And what's your bit like? It's like a post. And then you end up with a plowshare, post, winnowing basket. That's not what an elephant is it? So that's another thing that the parable sort of communicates. Perhaps a tendency in our society to sort of see that truth is really just a matter of amassing a greater number of, everyone's sort of perspective on life, and then, the increased number of perspectives, that equals the truth. But that's not what's being said here. Something quite different is being said. We've got this central metaphor of blindness and vision. So the king could see the elephant. The king could see the elephant, and the blind man could not see the elephant. That's crucial to the metaphor. So what's being indicated there is this sense of vision being a totality, as opposed to our partial views, our partial experience articulated in a view. Oh, it's like a plowshare. Yeah. And just reading Sangharakshita's kind of commentary on this sutta, I thought this was really, really good. To see the whole and to see how all of the partial views are partly right, you need a totally different vision on a totally different level. That's kind of what's being said, actually. So what this is getting at is this central teaching in Buddhism of insight, that we have this capacity as human beings to actually see life directly, unmediated by views, by ideas. That's the kind of the sort of primary first goal of the Buddhist path. That's this sort of total vision. Another part of the tradition, another sutta, the Buddha talks about it as all-round vision. I love that sort of metaphor of panorama, of totality. But the point is, it's direct. It's not sort of mediated through view at all. So that's what's being got at by this kind of total vision. That, of course, is what the Buddha is saying human beings are capable of. So, yeah, I've not had that experience, but what I have had is through coming into contact with more experienced Buddhists over time, sort of getting a sense, getting to know them. I feel like I've been in contact with greater perspective, something more panoramic. They've got perspective not just on this question that I've asked, but on this area and on this area, on this area. There's something more kind of panoramic going on. But it's difficult to know, isn't it? Have you got hold of part of life, thinking that you have hold of the totality, or have you got vision? How do you know? How do we know? That's really important to know, isn't it? And this is where we come a little bit closer to this question of, is religion something that unifies? or is it something that divides? What I propose is that you know, based on the quality of community, the quality of a society, actually, whether that society is based on vision, a totality, a contact with the totality of experience, or whether it's just based on a view, a partial. So simply put, that without vision, we divide, we fall out. That's what happens. Without vision, we divide, we fall out. That's why religions can divide, because we've lost touch with the central direct insight that whole religion is about. We're just hanging on to one bit of it, insisting on it as the whole truth. But yeah, I think in a way, because it is difficult for us to know, well, we find out in experience by, can we actually get along with people? Or do we end up falling out? It's not easy to live together in community, is it? But that, I would propose, is the kind of test of whether you're in touch with vision, some glimmer of vision, or whether you just got hold of part of a partial view. So just kind of looking at our society, I mean, societies, it's an extraordinary thing, isn't it? We're just so varied, aren't we? You know, we're a variety of temperaments, of interests, of needs, of experience. That is such variety. How is it that we sort of, how can you create a society in which we sort of all get along, we all cohere? And how well are we doing with that? Well, you know, it could be worse, but it could also be better. There's quite a lot of division, isn't there? It's quite noticeable. We're sort of quite politically divided. This side not able to communicate with this side. There's what's sometimes called the culture wars. There is identity politics that can get very, very fractious, can't it? Where the two sides are simply not able to tolerate each other. Actually, well, I propose that's a kind of loss of contact with vision, with what life really is about. Really interestingly, in the I don't know if you come across *Sapiens*, that is the book, but Yuval Noah Harari, he points out that actually our society, what enables us to sort of cohere as a society, well, he turns the clock back to 1776 BC. When Hammurabi, the Code of Hammurabi, King Hammurabi, essentially bases itself, it's his code, he's devised it, but it's got the sanction of God. It's actually essentially backed up by divine sanction, yeah? And then he turns the clock forward to 1776, which is the year of the American Declaration of Independence. And he goes into that and he points out that that too doesn't make sense without the sanction of religion. It's actually a religiously sanctioned document. It's not at all, it's totally surprised by that. But he's sort of arguing that actually we still need, we still draw from religion, secular as we see ourselves. A little quote from Sangharakshita: on the level of collective human life, there can be no healthy culture or civilization without some basis in transcendental values, however deeply hidden those values may be. A purely secular culture is really a contradiction in terms. That totally runs against the view that I've sort of grown up with. I think of ourselves as a secular society. Yeah, so really, really interesting. Food for thought. So I guess one of the points is living in a divided society, actually, it fragments us. It fragments us. It has an effect on us. It's not just that we create a particular society, but actually we live in it and it has an effect on us. So again, from the same the Sangharakshita's commentary, total truth, i.e. the truth, is only apprehensible by the total individual. That actually, so long as we're fragmented, we will never see it. So what that makes me think about is retreat, is going on retreat. My experience is that when I arrive on retreat, I am sort of a bit fragmented. My head thinks this and my heart, thinks that. But actually a retreat life is sort of, is a life that's designed for the whole individual to sort of allow us to sort of come together as a whole individual. And in a way, what Buddhism is trying to do, essentially, it's trying to sort of convey this vision, something that can't entirely be pinned down in words. But as this point that the total truth or that vision is apprehensible only by the total individual, it's difficult to do that in a sort of fragmented society. So that's why, in a way, for us, we really put a lot of emphasis on retreats because it's in those conditions. It's in those conditions that you can start to catch that vision. You can start to catch something personally, but actually also through the sort of the quality, as I'm sort of arguing, the quality of the community. The fact that there are all these different temperaments on retreats, you sort of think, how can those two? And actually, you go on retreat and you sort of get along with people. I find I get along with people better on retreat. I've kind of woken up a bit more to this sort of vision of life that enables me to sort of embrace more of the disparate parts, more of the disparate sort of temperaments of people that I live with. Yeah. So I think it's through retreats that you can sort of catch this. I think you can also, you sort of know when you're living with people. When we're on retreat, we just live together for a weekend or 5 days, whatever it is. And when you live with people, you know if it's just ideas, don't you? I mean, I could just be sharing ideas here, and I don't actually live it. That's possible, isn't it? And I could get away with it because I, go home at the end. But if we're on retreat, you can see what I'm like at breakfast time, and you can see what I'm like kind of, you can hear what I'm like at night as I'm snoring away. Yeah, so actually it's a much more all-round sort of experience. You can kind of see if this is just ideas or if actually there is some vision for life, some deeper vision for life that enables us to see how all the parts, the partial views, the partial sort of temperaments, parts of temperament and stuff kind of all fit together. So I think perhaps one of the troubles with the word vision is it can sound sort of rather either you've got it or you haven't. But I hope the example of retreat conveys it's not quite like that, actually. You can be receptive to it. You kind of catch something. You can't quite pin down what it is, but you can see the evidence of it in a community. But perhaps just to say a little bit more about what do we do to get from this partial, fractious kind of mode of, or realm, if you like, to yeah, a kind of a society where all of the parts are sort of find their place. Well, one way of talking about that is this this path, if you like, of wrong view, right view, no view. So I want to sort of talk a bit about that, probably more in the second half, actually. But yeah, wrong view is one way of talking about wrong view is just partial view, that we only have part of hold of kind of part of reality, part of the truth, part of experience. It's partial. It doesn't accommodate the whole balance and accuracy of all the data. Do you see what I mean? But we hang on to it as though it is the whole of it. So right view is actually, there's much more to say about this, but it's helpful view. So it's the Buddhist teaching, a view that helps us start to see beyond view. The Buddha was said to have no view, i.e. wasn't attached to any particular philosophical position because he had sort of direct insight. He didn't need to rely on view, rest on view. So right view is sort of instrumental. It can help us see, help us pick up on vision, be receptive to vision. So one way of talking about right view, actually, or one example of right view is just metta, the metta bhavana. That actually is kind of right view. Yeah, people, I think, is a good way for us to sort of get a sense of this sort of partial to a slightly more open attitude, a right view that can take in more of the balance of experience with an openness to something beyond view. So in the metta bhavana, part of what we're trying to do is we are trying to just bring more awareness into how am I relating to people. And that means kind of actually seeing where we categorize people. We see, if we catch ourselves, we see categories, not people sometimes, don't we? That's that, they're that particular party, political party, and I don't like, that's very easy. That's how our minds sort of work. So we're trying to just bring awareness into that in the metta bhavana. Can we just be aware of it? But we're not leaving it there. We're actually kind of taking up right view, so a view that includes more of the totality of experience. In this case, more of the totality of this person. Where we can reflect, this person too wants to be happy. This person too doesn't want to suffer. This person too wants to grow. What we're doing there is we're taking right view. We're taking a view that actually includes more of the person, more of the whole human being. They're not just a political party. They actually want to be happy. These are just, it's not a choice, is it, to want to be happy? Everybody has that built into their life. Everybody has built into their life they don't want to suffer. Everyone has built into their life that actually we're not satisfied, we're not happy, we're not fulfilled if we're not growing. So we can take that right view, but we use it as a frame to sort of look through that view to the person. There's this openness that it's not just an idea we're having about someone. We look through that view to feel for the person, yeah, through that, as it were, through that view. So that's something of how right view kind of works, how it enables us to look, to use a view, but actually to look beyond view. I'm not suggesting that metta is vision, but it's analogous actually to this. It's analogous to kind of seeing through ideas to vision. Yeah. So I thought what we do is actually just kind of try a bit of that in the metta bhavana. Just before we break for a tea break, actually sort of bring this into experience. I want to, in the second half, explore a bit more how you need a shared Dharma life to actually get anywhere with this. That might already be apparent, but I want to explore that a little bit further, but I'll do that in the second half. But for now, let's just get into meditation posture. Right, we all back. Marvelous. Well, just to sort of take this a little bit further, one could be, I don't think you are, but one could be mistaken for thinking that wrong view, right view, what we're talking about is something that can be written in a book. It can be written in a book, but it's not that wholly what we mean by view, actually. View is sort of closer to a kind of emotional position or a sort of emotional stance. Almost, it's almost closer to attitude, but of course that can be articulated. That attitude, that position can be articulated in words, can't it? You know, so an example is fixed self-view. That's one of the. That's no fixed self-view is right view, isn't it? It's Buddhist right view. It's just that you could ascribe to there being no fixed self-view, but then you find that when you're challenged, you don't want to change. You resist change. Well, that is a view. Do you see what I mean? So that's where this gets a little bit more slippery. How do we get hold of those views? How do we work with those views when they're hard to pin down, hard to even see? They're constantly sort of slipping out of view. Another I think helpful way of thinking about view is that view is directional. It's directional. So you know that experience when you've been on retreats. You've all been on retreat. I think everyone's been on retreat, haven't you? Yeah. And you kind of pick up right view again, and you know life starts to make sense, and you want to meditate and stuff. You're kind of back in, you know, inspired. That's how we put it. Well, that's because you picked up right view, and then you get off retreat, and you can't even quite put into words what it was you saw. You know, so it's not sort of merely an intellectual construct, is it? And you kind of slowly, you sort of lose touch with it, don't you? You sort of lose touch with right view. So actually it's directional. On retreat, we're sort of moving towards right view. Our view is becoming more and more right. And when we come off retreat, sometimes it's becoming more and more wrong. So view is a kind of directional thing, actually, rather than a kind of static thing. Just because we've read the right book doesn't mean it's established. Do you see what I mean? It's moving, and in a way, if you see that it's an emotional position, that becomes, you can see why it's sort of why we're constantly moving. We're constantly migrating away from right view towards partial views. Oh, I've lost where we are. So yeah, another way of putting that is right view is not, it's not a very good translation, that. Right view sounds like the party line, like you could just find out what the Buddhist party line is and sign up, and that is right view. That's not what we're talking about here. In actual fact, wrong view and right view they don't exist on the same level. They're not the same sort of species of thing, if you see what I mean. So how to think about this? You can think about it in terms of, well, actually, probably the easiest way to think about it is that right view, if you get hold of that in a very rigid kind of way, it becomes wrong view. So if you get hold of the Buddhist doctrine, but you hold on to it very, very tightly, it becomes wrong view. Yeah. So right view is by nature held differently from wrong view. Wrong view is that tendency to take the part and hold on to it as though this is, what was the phrase? This is the truth, and this is all of the truth. And right view is more instrumental. We're aware that we're picking up this view for a particular purpose, to help us grow. That is quite different, isn't it, from this is the whole truth. If you start to pick it up as this is the whole truth, then it becomes wrong view. Yeah. So can you see how they're actually quite different in nature? It's not merely matter of content, the wrong content and the right content. Yeah. So one way of thinking about that, there's these three criteria that it's wrong to do with the accuracy and balance of the data. Is it just part of the data, or does it take in the whole balance? If it's only part, if it's partial, it's wrong view. If it takes in more broadly, then it's right view, it's closer to right view. There is the values that's being served. So wrong view serves narrow, selfish kind of values. Right view serves transcendent values. We're trying to grow. And then you can also evaluate view on the basis of the outcome. Sometimes our political views, they might seem like right view. They might seem quite magnanimous, quite concerned about other people. But if the outcome is that it leads us to fall out with people, that indicates that it's not right view, it's wrong view. Yeah. So those three criteria are quite helpful way of evaluating views. And then, of course, the right view is instrumental in the sense that it's pointing us beyond view altogether. It's trying to point us towards vision, towards seeing things directly as they are. So that's right view, sort of wrong view, right view, no view, this schema. And you can see how it's a pathway, it's a progression. But yeah, just to touch on how actually to work on this, we need a shared Dharma life. It's not enough to live kind of your Dharma life in private for a few reasons. One is that actually we need the nudges of our friends. Our friends will say, I had a conversation earlier on in the week, and a friend just nudged me out of a view that was becoming narrow, partial, back into So we need those nudges, and that's what happens on retreat, isn't it? Even without us noticing, everyone else is going off to meditate, so we get kind of nudged. What view was it that was starting to creep in that was, making us not want to meditate? Yeah, so we need those kind of nudges, actually. We also need the bumps. We need the bumps, those people that we find that we differ. They've got a different take. Actually, sometimes those people, this is noticeable in the Sangha, in a Buddhist context. Sometimes I've had this, you get the experience, oh my goodness, that person cannot be a Buddhist. You can't, you don't know why. It's an emotional position. You can't, but you just think that person cannot be, they cannot, no. I draw the line. And we need that because our views are generally out of sight. And that person brings it by bumping up against that person, it comes into view. So that's why we need a shared Dharma life, actually, because left to our own devices, confirmation bias. That's what we will do. We'll have a confirmation bias Dharma life, where we think that we're very, very dharmic, but other people can see that, there are big blind spots. So with a shared Dharma life, either with our nudges or with our bumps, we need those in order to actually make progress with this constantly shifting tendency back towards our sort of cozy, comfortable, narrow view. Perhaps another way of putting it is, left to our own devices, we're probably not going to manage this. You need, I think it was Trungpa who said this, you need an objective reference outside of yourself to make some progress with the Dharma life. Well, other people can be that objective reference. They can start to show us the views, bring the views up into consciousness, into awareness. So that's what a shared Dharma life does. It does it in all sorts of ways. Yes, there are nudges. Sometimes people might, pick you up on things, but actually just by when you're on retreat, it can happen sort of by itself, can't it? I was thinking of just the simple thing of meditating together. You're meditating together, and well, that can be a collective practice, can't it? And sometimes, on retreat, often that means you meditate more. We just meditate, and you don't feel like you're pushing yourself. You actually enjoy it. So in that sort of way, a shared Dharma life can enable you to deepen your practice. It can enable you to deepen your practice. So what I thought we could do actually just with the last bit is just to meditate together, but actually take it on as a collective practice, the collective practice of sitting still together. Yeah. So there's that thing, isn't there, that you get an itch or whatever it is. Well, do you itch it? And when you're by yourself, there's no one there to sort of prevent you from, there's no reason to not, is there? But when you're with other people, actually, if you sit quietly, you support the meditation of someone else. Somehow that takes you closer to right view, and therefore feeds back into your meditation. So let's try meditation as a kind of collective practice to see if that supports the view, the right view that actually supports the mental states. See what I mean? So that's what I thought we could do just with the remaining sort of 15 minutes. Right, so we come to the end of our evening. Thanks all for coming. Lovely to spend the evening with you exploring the Dharma.